Now, in this week's episode of Teammate Talks podcast, I really want to kind of get into something I am very passionate about. I know she's very passionate about as well. And it's a huge part of what we use martial arts and parkour to do, not just for kids, but for adults too. And that is learning how to express ourselves in appropriate ways, learning how to communicate our emotions in appropriate ways, and learning how to navigate our emotions using coping skills and healthy emotional regulation tactics to be the best of us that it's possible for us to be. That's what we mean. Yeah. Be the best teammate you can be and be the best at being you. That's what we mean. Not always going to be perfect, but be the best that you can be. And that's what that's all about. Now, if you follow me on Facebook or TikTok, you might have noticed that last week I shared two very personal stories, right? And guys, if you think those were crazy, wait for the coming weeks. I plan on doing one of these story posts a week until I run out of stories for now. And I go through phases of telling these stories from time to time. So for example, last week, I told a story about getting shamed over a pay it forward thing when I was fresh out of homeless. Go check that out on my Facebook page or TikTok. I told another story about why I struggle with saying the words "I love you" to somebody. And actually, I struggle to hear it too, not just to say it. Nodding. You see that nod back there.
It's annoying.
Calling me out. Anyway, I have a whole story written about it. You can go check it out. Next week, I'm going to be telling a story about a time that I robbed somebody. No, I'm not going to give you any more detail about that right now. And I also am currently working on a story about the first time I was ever in a knife fight. And I was a preteen when that happened. So I understand that when I tell my stories, there's always a few people that are just like, this is unbelievable. This is made up. No, you got to understand that there are some of us out here who really did have very interesting experiences with life, right? And I have plenty to share, and I haven't shared them in about 5 years, so I'm going to start doing that. Now, I want to talk about that for just a second, because when I do share these stories, I almost always get a few commenters with oh, well, don't talk to the internet, go to therapy. Oh, well, you need counseling or whatever else, which is just kind of rude in its own right, as if maybe I hadn't already been down that road. But fact of the matter is, I don't share my stories as a cry for help. Fact is, I made peace with my past many, many years ago. And yeah, while I might have a few struggles still today, it doesn't necessarily mean I need counseling or therapy. Matter of fact, my old therapist would tell you that I have relatively healthy coping skill mechanisms that I draw on, and that things are cool. So don't be that guy. So if you see me sharing these personal stories coming up, just understand that, I lived a crazy life, and it is real. It is true. But go ahead.
And if you're one of the people that said you need therapy, you need professional help, you're the reason we have to do videos like this.
Oh my Lord, dude.
You are the reason we have to do videos.
Okay, I got to answer this comment from Truth Hurts. Dude, it sounds like you got some interesting stories too, or ma'am, I don't know. That sounds like you got some very interesting stories as well. I can't say that what's happened to me. Can't say that that's a story that happened to me, but I will be sharing a lot of my stories moving forward. I share them on the podcast quite a bit. But what we really want to talk about today is like those of us that are elder millennials and Gen X, we were taught not to talk about our emotions. We were taught that was weakness. To admit that you were emotional or frustrated or sad was weakness. And so all we were really taught to do is unhealthy masking mechanisms and pretending to be okay, right? Pretending to be fine so as to not bother anyone else. Because we were kind of raised in this concept, or I was raised in this concept, that you feeling a certain way and talking about it could potentially bother somebody else. And that's just not polite. You just don't bother people with how you feel or things that you're dealing with. And in my opinion, if someone feels like that about you, then they're not a good friend, and they're not good family either, right? Because those people are going to care about those things. So we start with kids, but I do a lot with the adults too, on learning how to use traumatic experiences from your past as inspiration and motivation to become the person that you truly want to be. Now, I brought Miss Rose on here though, because kids, she works with kids, and I really want to talk about parents in this case too, because those of us that are adults, we have to find ways to do this ourselves. We have to find ways to do these things within ourselves. But one of the things that can really help you if you have kids is to help your kids learn the proper ways to do this. And through helping your kids, I promise you, you'll get better about it as well. So I'm going to hand it over to her to talk a little bit about how to appropriately approach your children, about how to express their emotions, how to learn how to identify their emotions and what they feel, and ways you can help them through how to handle their emotions in an appropriate way.
So honestly, the littles are my favorites to teach. They are so easy to read. They don't mask yet.
Oh, they wear everything on their sleeve, don't they?
The kids under 6 and sometimes the 7-year-olds haven't started masking yet. So
most of them. Now, every once in a while, we deal with some kids that came from terrible situations.
Yes.
And that's a different story. I think she's meaning more your neurotypical sort of situation.
Well, and even some of the neurospicy kids, if you put it in the lens, like you have to put everyone in their own context.
Right.
And so if I have a neurotypical kid, super easy to read. But also at this point, I've worked with a lot of neurospicy kiddos, and I can look at them and I'm like, I know exactly what you're thinking. I know exactly what's going on in your head. You know, so part of this is just knowing your audience, essentially.
Right. It's hard to help a kid identify and talk about their emotion if you can't identify the emotion that they're dealing with, because they have to learn this from somebody.
Oh, they absolutely do.
And they're not going to learn it at school. They're not typically going to learn it from their teachers unless you have a very special type of school teacher.
Yeah. And please do understand that a lot of our generation, especially the girls don't have ADHD, girls don't have autism. So, and it presents differently in girls than it does in boys. Typically.
I also would like to add to that it presents in boys in a variety of ways.
Yes.
Not just hyperactivity. Some kids like me, it presented as hyper focus, or like tuning people out and just fully tuning in to whatever I'm paying attention to. And because I was considered intelligent in school, I wouldn't consider myself that now, but because I was considered intelligent in school, nobody thought to worry about my antisocial behaviors, about my behaviors related to having a hard time connecting or making friends with kids or anyone else, which I later learned was part of my ADHD.
Yeah. But so it's entirely possible as an adult, you might have ADHD or be on the autism spectrum. It's not a big deal.
It doesn't mean you necessarily need medication or therapy. You might, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. There is a lot of people that have these types of neurodivergencies as adults who have learned to live life and cope with it and be themselves and live phenomenal lives. So don't see it as a death sentence. I say that as someone who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well. And a lot of people hear that and they have a lot of stigmas and thoughts about it because, well, there's some bad stories related to bipolar disorder, which is kind of on the schizophrenic spectrum, right? Of delusions and hallucinations and things like that. But guys, it's not the end of the world to get a diagnosis like that. You can live a good, full life and learn to emotionally regulate yourself with proper medication sometimes.
But I say all that to say that if you look back in your childhood and you go, oh, I was super talkative. Oh, I fixated on certain things, or I became obsessed with certain things, or it, you know, a variety of different things that you look at your kids now and a professional would say, those are signs of this, that, and the other.
That doesn't mean it's a diagnosis. The fact that someone shows signs, you know.
Yes, but it's possible that you could be, and you don't need medication because you have coping skills. Just remember that learning coping skills and learning signs of emotions and behaviors is important for you to help your kids get better just as much as it's important to help you continue to cope and grow and love yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us that pay any attention in the world at all can agree that emotional intelligence is a very important part of building relationships, collaborations, and even careers. I want to answer this comment real quick. Sorry, Nate, took me a second to get to you. Do you like to drink Monsters and punch walls was the question. Can I tell a quick story?
Sure.
Okay, so I can't stand Monsters. I'm going to say that right off the bat, but I do have a bit of an addiction to Red Bulls. Yes. And now I have not punched a wall in a very long time, but let me explain. Let me explain why. I was in my early days of teaching martial arts, right? And I had this student who kept wrapping their thumb inside their fist. A big pet peeve of martial arts instructors because it will mess you up. And one day I was kind of frustrated. I wasn't expressing that frustration, but I was kind of frustrated with this student who I've been talking to about this for months up to that point. And there was this like metal pillar where we trained, this big metal pillar, and I was explaining alignment and everything else and how your punch connects, and I was punching this metal pillar, and then as part of that demonstration, I went, do not put your thumb in your fist and hit something like this, and I punched that metal pillar and broke the little bone in my thumb knuckle. So I've never punched a wall since then. Just got to say.
Plus,
But Moto Dad there says he agrees with you.
Yeah. Plus, around here, you punch a wall, you fix it.
That's right. If you put a hole in my wall, you fix it, because we use our walls for training.
Yeah.
I hate having to fix them. I have to fix them weekly.
Now, I found a really good way to help kids not only connect emotionally, but physically with that same concept. So what I tell my littles is that if your fingers hug your thumb, it's like 4 people hugging you at once. And I go, have you ever had a whole bunch of people hug you? That's really overwhelming. It's stressful, right? It makes you feel bad. But if your thumb hugs your fingers, it's like getting hugged by one person, which is less overwhelming. It's less stressful, and they completely understand.
Okay,
how to fix it.
I have to stop right there to say, did y'all just catch the genius in what Miss Rose is saying right here? She used a common, simple beginner martial arts thing related to throwing a punch and used it as a way to teach about emotions and being overwhelmed. This is why I love Miss Rose. This is why she is the best of our kids instructors. That's why right there.
But it helps them connect, because some kids are like, no, I don't really know. And I'm like, well, it would be a lot to be hugged by 4 people, right? Can't you?
Hey, Tom
that?
Papa, Canyon Videos, I'm gonna kick you, bud. Get off there. All right, go ahead. Continue.
Ooh, if I didn't teach kids, please know that I'm giving you a hand gesture right now in my head, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But they can imagine what it would feel like to be hugged by 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them I can be like, hey, so your daddy's been strong over there. It's like getting hugged by your daddy, and you feel safe that way, right? And so there's a lot of ways you can connect different physical activities with different emotions. And we actually keep around, we don't use it as often.
I'm gonna try to get this in the camera.
I'm gonna put it there. We call it the Calm Down book. And we have a digital version too that we sometimes send to parents. And so it has printables that you can use to help kids identify how they're feeling right now. Because sometimes they're not sure. We might know, but it helps them write down, how they're feeling.
And I love this one. Because it's not just writing down a name of an emotion. It's also, how does your stomach feel? How does your body feel? How does your chest feel? What are ways you can calm down?
Yeah.
And so it helps kids learn to identify emotions based on the physical things that they're feeling.
Yeah. And so you can use things like charts, where they have...
Yuki, are you talking to them or me? Just curious, Yuki, because if you're talking about them, I'm with you. But yeah, all right, go ahead. I'll pause it.
Where they have happy faces, or they have colors, where you can say, okay, red is when we feel not okay. Can you go, touch on the chart what color you feel like? Green is good. Purple is awesome. Whatever. You can assign different emotions to, or different feelings to different colors or symbols or whatever, or like animals, right? How does your brain feel? Is it going fast like a cheetah? How is your heart feeling? Is it going fast like a cheetah? How does your tummy feel? Is it prickly like a porcupine? Things like that. And that helps them start to identify how their body feels in relation to what their emotions are feeling.
Now, in case y'all missed it or just joined, what she's describing there is how we would approach this with very young children, like toddler age, 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 6 years old. Now, when they get to the 7 and 8 year old range, we use far less visuals and far more. Okay, hey, I can see you're emotional. I need you to take a couple of deep breaths. And instead of showing me your emotion, I want to know if you can tell me how you're feeling right now. How is your stomach feeling? Why do you feel that way? What made you feel that way? Okay, now we've identified the problem that your emotion is trying to tell you is there. So now let's talk about healthy ways to handle that problem. And that's what I do with I handle a lot of the 7 and 8 year olds through the 9, 10, 11 year olds. Of course, when you get into the preteen, teen, and adults, I approach that a lot differently because I'm not gonna baby a 13-year-old. You know what I mean? But I'll let her continue with what she was going to.
So that's kind of a base way to start. Like, it's good at home. Here we don't quite use as much of that. I might use the animal references because we talk about animal movements in terms of exercise and getting warmed up. So they have the idea of how those animals move. So they're easy to relate to emotions. But sometimes you have to get them calmed down first before you can even start to talk to them about how they feel.
First trick, give them water.
Or something sour.
Or something sour. It is almost impossible to sob, ugly cry while you're taking a drink, and that will allow them to regulate their breathing again. Doing something sour is like a shock to the system.
Yep.
It's a distraction that can help them think about something else for a split second. Oh, this is a weird discomfort, and that can usually calm them down enough to begin to have the conversation.
Yep. And so once you can get them to kind of stop crying, they might have some hiccups, or they might have the weird breathing where they're like, you know. And then
I think we got two commenters following each other around, Aaron and Ben, to talk about being in every chat together.
That's hilarious. Once I get them like past the ugly sobbing face, and this, trust me, this works with toddlers too. I did this with a kiddo who's not quite 2 the other night, and it's like with the water trick. I'm like, "Are you thirsty?" Finally, after they'd been crying. Nodding head. Well, of course you are. You've been crying. Of course you're thirsty.
You lost all your water.
Yeah. And so got them to drink, and then they calmed down. But once you get them to that point, when they're 4, 5, 6, you can use some extra tricks to help them regulate their breathing and get their brain back in. And so balloons and bubbles. You can't cry.
Here, I need you to blow this bubble. I need you to blow a bubble for me.
Have dysregulated breathing because you have to take a full inhale and do a full exhale while they're doing that. And so then while they're doing that, we can start talking about, oh, you had some big feelings. You had some big emotions. That's okay. You fell down. You bumped your head. That's understandable. I get upset when I bump my head too. How did that make your tummy feel? How does your head feeling okay? You know?
Or when I'm dealing with older kids and teens, teens cry too if they get knocked in the nose. That's another thing. You get that little nerve in the tip of your nose and makes your eyes water up. But I will usually ask them, okay, I just need you to describe to me what you think happened or what seemed to, even if I watched it, even if I saw it happen. Because them taking a second to kind of describe what happens also lets you know where they're at emotionally, if they're blaming somebody else, if they see themselves as accountable for the situation, or whatever else, which helps you approach the conversation better. Now, I want to talk about teens and adults for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll talk about the teens and adults for a second. Mostly, I teach them about emotional regulation through anecdotal stories from my own past. Like I said, if you want to know more about those stories, I tell them sometimes on here. I told the story last week on my Facebook about why I struggle with people telling me I love you and saying I love you back. I have another story coming out next week about a time that I robbed somebody, but I felt like I was justified. You can check that out next week on Facebook. I also am working on a story about the first time I was ever attacked with a knife, which happened when I was 12 years old. So, I've got some stories to pull on that I often use to relate to the teen and the adults and stuff like that. But with teens and adults, it really starts with learning to express as you feel. So what I tell my adults is we often think of expressing anger as yelling or growling or whatever, right? But instead, I try to get my students when they get mad to practice, instead of that, say, I am angry. I am frustrated. And then tell me, why are you angry? Why are you frustrated? And then we can have a philosophical discussion to help you change your perspective around the situation that you're in so that you learn to see those obstacles in front of you as a challenge, a game to be beaten or overcome instead of something to be afraid of and run away from. But with adults, you have to kind of do this yourself. I don't want to say you have to do it yourself. Like, I'm more than happy to help guide people through it. I had to go through this across many years. But at a certain point, you have to start catching yourself and telling yourself how you feel, because you'll feel an emotion and then tell yourself you don't feel it. You know what I mean? So you have to learn to tell yourself how you feel. You have to learn to put words to it. And then you have to learn how to reframe it, meaning you're angry because you're seeing this a certain way. Is there any other way that we can look at this? Is there any other point of view that we can see this from that might help us relate to the other people involved, or might help us humanize or have compassion for the situation or other people involved and things like that? Garrett, not enough, bud. Do we stress test people? Great question. As a martial arts studio, I get this question a lot. Yes, of course we do. We spar all the time. Obviously within certain safety realms, proper equipment, controlled contact. But when we spar, it's actually different. We're actually a lot different from a lot of martial arts studios. We don't just kickbox or just grapple. I will do those things. Don't get me wrong. Connor's BJJ, come on in, man. How long you been teaching? Like, I'm cool. Like, you want to come in and teach a seminar or something? We can talk about that. No problem. I'll train with you. Do we stress test people? Yes. But when we spar, now with the little kids that are just learning to spar, they kind of point spar and learn continuous kickboxing. But once they get over the age of 8, they're introduced to leg kicks and sweeps and takedowns and clinches and grappling and things like that. So when we spar, these are all viable things that I let my students use, so that maybe I have a student that doesn't like to grapple or wrestle, but they're still going to learn some basics from that. And they're still going to have to spar people who do like to grapple and wrestle. So they'll have to learn how to defend against it, that sort of thing. I know I'm getting off topic here. Just wanted to answer that question. Do we stress test people? Absolutely. I feel like that is a 100% necessary part of training in martial arts. It's one thing to learn a technique. It's another thing to train it to the point that you're really good at that technique. It's a whole separate thing to learn when and how to use those techniques effectively. And that only comes from experience, lots of it.
And it still ties into emotional regulation. If you can't button down your emotions in a stressful situation and be able to override a little bit of that adrenaline rush, then you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, Garrett, not enough, obviously. Cool Stingray, I have no idea what you're talking about at all. Mikey, favorite fight in each weight class in USC? Okay, UFC. Okay, I talked about this on my last podcast, so I'll try to keep this short. Favorite fighter. Okay, that's different. Because the thing is I do martial arts for a living. So I train, I do curriculum development, I teach, and I do these things all day long. So when I have a chance to sit down and watch TV, I'm not watching fight sports. I'm not doing it. Now, will I peruse highlight videos and certain special fights? Absolutely. I will do that, but I'm not sitting here watching a whole fight. Now you say favorite fighter, man, I have a few, I can't think of the main one, that I always forget this dude's name, but I actually met him once. Well, he wouldn't remember it, but can't think of his name right now. Maybe it'll come back to me. The other one that's kind of a favorite of mine is Michael Venom Page. I like watching Michael Venom Page. There's a local guy that I used to train with here in Oklahoma that fights in Rage in the Cage. Zevin. Zevin the Cheese Hunt. Obviously, he's going to be one of my favorites because I used to train with him. And I mean, he trained at a different studio, but we've done some stuff together.
I mean, I'm old enough to say this. We've known him since he was a kid.
We've known him since he was a kid, yeah. And he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter and absolutely fun to watch. I do enjoy watching Wonder Boy Thompson because I love his kicking skill, his kicking ability. I understand he's not like the best fighter out there, but I love watching him fight because it's entertaining. It's interesting. He pulls off some like really, really crazy stuff. So I like watching him. And then I cannot think of that one guy. It's the guy I always talk about that story when he broke that dude's ribs at a point fighting tournament in Vegas.
I don't know. You'll think of it later.
I'll think of it by the time this thing is over, probably. He fights in Glory. He's not an MMA fighter. He fights in Glory. Can't think of his name. Obviously, when Anderson Silva was in the game, I really liked watching him. There's a few others, but those are my main ones. Oh my gosh, I have so many comments. Jake Paul. Man, I'd take it. Jake Paul's like twice my size. I'm like 5'7", $150. But I would do it. I would do it for fun. But Anthony Joshua already did that. Yes, just like R. Kelly said. Wow, I've a lot of comments. Logan Paul, Jake Paul, jaw broke. Yeah, I got to be honest. I normally would never celebrate someone being hurt, but that dude had that punch coming, man. That dude had that punch coming, and the jaw thing, yeah. Anyone with a rough childhood can scrap. I would agree with that. I had a very rough childhood. I had to learn to fight early, like way before I ever started training. But training certainly started to help me a lot with that. I first started training at around the age of 9. So I mean, it did help me a lot. Clean your dishwasher. What?
I mean, that is good advice.
Peter Griffin had a good fight with a chicken. Dude, that's one of my favorite shows. Yeah, man, no, I'm with you there. Since I prefer sport karate and kickboxing, one of my favorites is Superfoot Wallace. Yes, he's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Obviously, he doesn't fight anymore. He's like 83 this year, I think. But look up Superfoot Wallace's fight videos against Chuck Norris and stuff like that. So it's really cool, really fun stuff. No, I never heard that tri-state trucker. I'll have to go back and look at those videos. That might be true. That could be true. But anytime you cross your arms down while you're in striking distance of your opponent is typically not good. You need at least one hand in the high range, right? Especially when you're close enough to get smacked right in the face, which we do for a living. So now I already know some of you are going to ask this: do I fight professionally? No, I do not. Never have. I have competed many times in a variety of combat sports, from bare knuckle Kyokushin, or I never can pronounce it the way those guys pronounce it. I was not a Kyokushin guy. I did not train in it. I just competed in a couple tournaments. It was a lot of fun. I've done Olympic Taekwondo. I've done classic American kickboxing. I've never done a wrestling tournament, but I have done jiu-jitsu tournaments. And I've competed in a few MMA fights here and there, but they were like not even small leagues. They were like, exhibition matches type things. You know what I mean? Like tournaments, like amateurs, right? Stuff like that. Honestly, I'm just a bit old for that now. I mean, I am, how can I put this? I am older than almost anybody I can name in professional sports. Is that a good way to put it? Like I'm in the upper,
actively competing.
Yeah. So who's still actively competing? So I'm not actively competing anymore. I mostly focus on training other people. I get a lot of enjoyment out of helping people be better at this stuff than I am, and training them to make the next generation like way more impressive than the current generation of fighters. That's a big thing to me. But I also, the bigger thing is, like we were talking about earlier, using this as a vehicle to help people learn to be the best of themselves, to help people learn to be just plain better human beings through emotional regulation, coping skills, character development, things like that. Now, I'm not one of those guys that will tell you, well, just take martial arts and you'll become more confident and get more disciplined and get this and get that and get character development, blah, blah, blah. No, I actually have a full-on character development and coping skill curriculum that is added in to all of my martial arts and parkour programs. So I'm not saying that training martial arts makes you a better person. It absolutely does not. There's a lot of crappy people in the martial arts world. But if you have a well thought out curriculum, I sought out behavioral psychologists, I sought out occupational therapists to build the curriculum that we have for working with kids on these type of things. So no, martial arts won't do that on its own, but you can find some martial arts studios that really do have a comprehensive character development curriculum that does help with these kinds of things, which is what we're talking about on this podcast, right? So that kind of brings us back. Favorite fighter, Butterbean. Man, sorry. Butterbean, that dude is awesome. Like, I loved Butterbean.
Y'all, YouTube, you just hijacked this whole video.
All right. I'm getting you back to it. So emotional regulation, and she was talking about with kids. I was talking about with adults, right, and teens. So it starts with us. So we have to learn to realize when we're masking, we have to overcome the anxiety about telling other people how we feel. Start with your most trusted people, your best friend, a parent, maybe, if you have a good relationship with your parents, a sibling, I guess, if you have a good relationship with a sibling, best friend, whatever, someone, and learn to practice just every once in a while being able to just take a deep breath and say, I've been feeling like this and I'm struggling with it, and this is why I think I'm struggling with it. And let them know, I'm not telling you this because I want advice or need advice. I'm just telling you this because it's important to me to learn how to better regulate my emotions. And part of that is learning how to express them without shame. For example, I expressed a very emotional story recently in some local group posts here. And I did it, and I even said at the bottom of the post that I'm sharing this story because of what happened to a young man around here recently who went missing and then was found a week later, and there was a lot of charges brought up on the parents and guardians. And so I shared a personal story from my past that kind of related to that, and I said at the end, this is why I started Peaceful Warriors Martial Arts and Parkour in the first place. This is why I'm so passionate to do what I do. This is why I'm so passionate about teaching the way that I teach. And still, I had several people, well, don't talk about that online. Go to therapy. Go talk to a counselor. Like, no, man, like a lot of people in the world are saying, I wish people would be better about talking about their emotions and be more emotionally intelligent. Then when someone goes out and tries to be emotionally intelligent and talk about their emotions, it's, oh, keep it to yourself. Go tell your therapist. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what stops a lot of people. So that doesn't stop me, though. That's why I share a lot of my stories, because it inspires other people to share their stories. And the more of us that are talking about it, the more the crap drowns out. You know what I mean? Am I going to answer what, dude? I don't know what you mean, Austin. I'm not sure. You didn't ask me a question, dude. I was in the middle of talking, man. You didn't answer me. Didn't ask me a question.
Yes, what's up?
What's
There just
up?
wasn't any punctuation in the sentence, so it was really kind of hard to tell it was a question.
Yeah. Okay, greatest fight I ever remember watching. Okay, I understand this is a bit of a crap answer to this question, but I think my favorite fight I have ever seen was that MMA fighter I was telling you guys that I'd done some stuff with in the past that fights here in Oklahoma at Rage in the Cage. We were having a little tournament here to raise money for local kids, and him and his brother showed up and they competed in the tournament. And we had MMA divisions, we had full contact Kyokushin divisions, we had point fighting divisions. Like, we had something for everybody, like any type of sparring anyone ever wanted to compete with. And he showed up, and phenomenal fighter. And I had a couple of adults his size that he got to go with in the MMA divisions and stuff, but he wanted to compete in everything, including point sparring and kickboxing. And I didn't have any adults big enough that were willing to go with him. But I did have a fresh 16-year-old who had recently passed his 8-hour black belt test, who had never competed a day in his life because he just didn't care to compete. Now, don't get me wrong, he sparred all the time, but he's just not a competitive dude. You know, some people just ain't competitive. But yeah, he was a great fighter though. And so I asked him, like, will you fight this guy so that he can have someone to compete with? And he's like, yeah, sure. And oh my gosh, that had to be the most fun fight. He did a continuous kickboxing match by American rules, and he did a point sparring match with them. And those were some of the most fun fights I'd ever seen, because here I am expecting my student to get his butt handed to him handily, because I know what this other dude's capable of, you know what I mean? And it didn't happen that way. They fought to split decision across all their fights, and the only thing I regret that I didn't record it, because I was 100% impressed, and so was Evan. 100% impressed with how my father fought, considering he had never actively competed in combat sports before to a rule set. It was amazing. So Mike Tyson busts others. We should get together. Yeah, man. There's soon. I haven't been ignoring the chat. I've literally answered every single comment, but you can say whatever you want. Yeah, I'm not answering the Bermuda Triangle thing. I know you said your name. I don't want to say it again. I don't want to make that mistake. But username Amy Finn. To be honest, I probably do remember you, but you have to understand how many students I've had with that first name. Like, I could think of about 20 right off the bat. So it kind of depends on how, when you were last here, that kind of thing. Anyway, we did get really off topic. I talked about the adults. Was there anything else?
Because he's not ignoring the chat.
Because I'm not ignoring the
It's
chat.
driving me crazy.
Was there anything
I'm
else
feeling crazy right now.
from the perspective of helping kids with their emotional regulation? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or anything else you wanted to bring up for this video?
Honestly, don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Because these kids...
None of that I'll give you something to cry about nonsense.
Like, these kids, this is their first time living too. And guess what? They haven't lived nearly as long as you. If you're an adult, be a flipping adult. Like, don't get mad because the 5-year-old is upset that their toy broke. To them, that's a big freaking deal. That's like your car breaking down. They have the same size emotions we do and less experience in how to deal with them.
See,
So
I remember
be an adult.
I remember being a kid and getting smacked hard in the face one time. Was not my dad. I want to say that. My father didn't lay hands on me, but I knew very little about my father. That's a different story. But I did get smacked in the face really hard once when I was told for the 1,000th time, if you keep crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about. And I mouthed off, you already gave me something to cry about. That's why I'm crying in the first place. And I got smacked, dude. Like, I was a little snarky at a certain age range.
it wasn't untrue. That's why, like, if you don't want to hear stupid stuff, don't say
Don't
stupid
say
stuff.
stupid stuff. If you don't ask stupid questions, you want a stupid answer. I don't feel like there are many stupid questions, but that was one of them.
No, I answered this.
You
The
did.
only- the
Couple
only-
of episodes of our Team I Talks
The
podcast ago,
only
you did.
stupid question is the one I've already answered.
What happened to the ceiling? There never was one. This is not my building. I do not own this building. I lease over half of this building, about 6,000 square feet, for our 2 training floors. We have a training floor for beginners. See, that's what I get trying to show you guys stuff. And I have a training floor in the back where my advanced strength
And
training.
this particular side does not have a drop ceiling.
No.
The back floor does.
Yeah.
And so it has ceiling tiles. This one does not.
Yeah, that comment tried to talk back to my mother once. Yeah, my mom would just do it herself.
You can tell me to stop being dramatic and it ain't gonna happen. I came out dramatic. I'm gonna go out dramatic.
Oh yeah, no, there's no water damage. There's no water damage. It has a metal roof. This is a metal building. It's a cheap building. It has a metal roof. That's just insulation that you're seeing up there. That's the insulation and the cross beams. So, anyway, once more, did you have anything else you wanted to add about emotional regulation with
No,
kids?
that's all I wanted to add. Is
All right.
Don't be
Now
a
we can
jerk.
go farther into this conversation if you want. Never be afraid to message me, comment on any of my stuff, have a conversation with me. I don't mind having a private conversation or whatever. I don't mind debate. If you disagree with me, I could care less. I don't mind. You're allowed to disagree with me, just like I'm allowed to disagree with you. And we can debate that all you want, as long as no one's going to get mad about it. You know what I mean? Australia's in there. Yeah, man. Look, Stretch, I got to give a shout out to you. You don't know this, but my mother and my mother's side of the family are all Australians and live over there in Perth. And I got to go there once. The summer I turned 13, I got to go over there and spend time with my aunt and uncle and their kids over there. And that was my first experience ever with staying with a normal functioning household. Right? Like they were telling me, oh, go ride on your bike and go check out the town. Oh, here, do some errands with us. And they were including me in things. And I was scared to do anything because I wasn't allowed to do anything at home without getting in big trouble. And that was the first time I ever was given anonymity, I guess. Is that the word I'm looking for?
No.
What am I looking for? It was given
Autonomy.
autonomy. That's the one I was looking for. That was the first time I was ever given autonomy by an adult. And I didn't know what to do with it. It was weird. But yeah, got family from Australia. So really cool.
So, no.
You can go ahead and talk.
This dude, whoever it was that said I was a see me girl. So the thing you don't understand is that I don't care what you think.
Yeah, and there's a reason.
And I am not squashing myself and making myself smaller like
Right.
every adult ever wanted me to do just for you.
And if you're going to say something like that, say it about me. I'm the one that has my face all over our social media pages. I'm the one that makes all the videos. I'm the one that does all that. So if you got something to say it to me. No. Oh my gosh. Is that a joke? I think so. Oh my gosh. Dude, I'm not even saying that joke out loud. Funny though. Grandmother, not my mother for the first time. Frying pan to the head. Yeah. No, I did not get hit, but I experienced having a frying pan thrown at me. That is terrifying. Oh, I said I didn't get hit. I get hit in the leg. That kind of thing. So, oh my gosh. Y'all in these comments, man. Why do you care what someone else looks like or how they choose to wear their hair? What does that got to do
honestly,
with you?
I did the braids because I'm wearing a beanie. I'm just letting you know my fashion choice.
Yeah.
And I don't like how the bun pulls my beanie up past my ears.
Oh,
So
Tri-State
just throwing
Trucker,
that out
Hershey,
there.
Pennsylvania. Thank you, dude. If I'm ever in the area, maybe we can hook up or something. I really appreciate all your comments today and all that kind of stuff. Had a lot of fun with this. Oh, I got someone from Russia. Oh yeah, I saw the respectfully later, Terry. I should apologize. I should apologize for my initial reaction to that. You know, there was a lot of negativity flowing, and I did miss the respectfully part. My bad. All right. Well, I guess that's about it, since we had no more to talk about on emotional regulation. So till we see you guys again, be the best teammates you can be,
And
be the best at being you. Can you hit the clicker?
Maybe.
Hit the clicker.
I